Have we lost all sense of common sense, I suppose, is one of the questions here. We know there's often stories about people getting... I'd love to speak with you if you've had any of that jip from somebody because your mask had slightly slipped below your nose and someone gets all evangelical about it. They've all become somehow amateur virologists while sitting on the train. I think I find there's a man in row 7, seat C, who hasn't got his mask on properly, perchance. There's a lot of that going on, isn't there? I'm hearing arguments across carriages. Although it was the quietest journey into work for a long, long time. And if you don't believe we're here, then make sure you watch us. We are live streaming on YouTube. Go to the Talk Radio channel, Twitter, Facebook, and search for Talk Radio, and you will see us in moving pictures. So there's been a fair bit of that. The kind of over-excitable security guard is usually, the security guard that thinks they're a policeman. One of those characters. They love it, don't they? If they're not doing that job, they're working as a car park attendant. You know the one. For some reason, always got a limp. I don't know why that is. Big bunch of keys on the waist. You know the kind of character. Would have had walkie-talkies as an older teenager, when the rest had them at 12. But then there was this, and this, it really doesn't get any more distressing. I mean, if you ever wanted an example of the absolute distress caused as a result of lockdown, then here it is. 93-year-old woman, 73-year-old daughter, and a 41-year-old granddaughter are all part of this story. This is 93-year-old Tina Thornborough. She's been a resident in a care home in East Yorkshire for nearly a year. She has dementia, and she's frail. And it should be said, by the way, that the family, I need to add this in here just for kind of legal clarity, the family have power over Tina's finances, but they don't have power, because of the way this system works, over her well-being. That said, how could we ever have arrived in a place where taking your own frail, isolated mother from a care home results in an arrestable offence? 0344 499 1000. This is grim, whatever way you look at it. Tina's 73-year-old daughter, Yelena Angeli, I think it's Angeli, has gone into the care home where her mother is. She essentially wanted a hug. She hasn't been able to hug her mum for 9 months. She then left the care home with her mum and went into the car, but it wasn't long before the authorities were informed of what had happened. The police were on the way. Apparently you cannot take your mum out of a care home. Just have a listen to this.
So let's just make this very clear. My nan, my 97-year-old nan here, who we have taken from the care home because we haven't seen her for 9 months, is now being taken back by force to her care home. My mother has been arrested. My mother is in the back of the car here. She is a nurse. She is a fully qualified nurse who is wishing to care for her own mother. And here we have an incredible use of police time to take my 97-year-old grandmother back into a care home where she is deteriorating, where we haven't been able to see her for 9 months. Nan, I love you, and we are going to fight for you.
It's incredibly distressing. If you were watching the video version of that on any of our streaming channels, I mean, I find that incredibly hard to watch, because the lady Tina, who's 97, who's sitting 93, who's sitting in the passenger seat, clearly has no idea what is going on. It's never lost on me. This was a young lady once. This was somebody who was full of life and zest and raised a family and got on with her life and went to work. And life is a strange beast, and the cards are dealt. And she's got to the age of 93, dementia has set in, and she's frail, and she's 93, for goodness sake. And there she is at the centre, has probably no idea, the only consolation, to be at the centre of this kind of storm. So there it was. That was the granddaughter speaking in that. We're going to speak to the mum and the daughter. And what's the mum? It's the daughter and the granddaughter from Tina's perspective. A little later in the programme, who will tell us a little bit more about what happened. But I think to most people, what seems to be unfathomable is the amount of police that turn up for this thing is extraordinary. This was in a garden centre. They left the care home. And I know you don't just take somebody from a care home. There's protocol, as somebody has just texted in on that point. I get that. But think about what we're dealing with here. We're in lockdown. It's a frail 93-year-old who clearly is very much in the winter of her life. Her daughter and her granddaughter have not seen her for 9 months. They've not been able to give her a cuddle. Those visits aren't allowed. At some point, Tina went into hospital. She went back to the care home without any consultation with the daughter or the granddaughter. How we've arrived at a place where so many police officers could be called to something like that, I have no idea. How you get to a place where the daughter ends up in handcuffs and arrested and put in the back of a police car. That should disturb anyone. It doesn't matter what the consequences or the reasons behind it and whether she broke protocol in the way that she did. Put all of that to one side. This is a distressed daughter who wants to see her 93-year-old mother and is fearing, because of the lockdown, that she may not see her again. I don't want to put words into her mouth, but I'm assuming that was part of the thinking. I don't know what the fuller plan was. They were found at a garden centre, so whether the idea was to have a bit of a day out and then go back to the care home, we will establish that a little later. She was in handcuffs. In handcuffs. If somebody's going to tell me something horrendous and violent happened, then fine. I don't think that is the case. This should disturb all of us. We should all be royally bothered by this. We should be bothered by the South Humberside Police, I guess, would have been dealing with that. We should be bothered by their reaction. They seem very civil. At one point, the officer says, "Can you stop filming?" You have no right to ask somebody to stop filming. In fact, it's in everybody's interest that you carry on filming. And the family said, they didn't have... Interesting, they were very patient with the police and said, actually, the police were very nice to us. Well, they put somebody in handcuffs. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were arguing over an athlete who was pulled over for a drug search. As it turned out, no drugs to see here. And handcuffs were used. And the world went absolutely flipping bananas over it. The handcuff was the issue. That became the bigger issue than the pulling over of the two athletes, if you remember. Well, let's get equally angry about this lady. Let's get equally angry that Elenia Angeli was put into handcuffs as well. Let's get angry about that. Let's get really bothered that somebody in the madness of lockdown, and it doesn't matter where you sit on lockdown, it is a madness. I think Mr. Johnson would probably acknowledge that. There is something not right about the era we're currently living in, and people are doing weird things. Whether it is matey on the train who says your face mask is a bit skewiff, whether it's the absolute clowns that me and my other half bumped into in a car park in Whitstable just before the summer, because when we happened, I thought we were walking too close to them. Walking! It's a seaside place, Everybody's trying to walk in the same direction. But those kind of, the overzealous security, whoever it happens to be, I want to hear those stories, because I think we should hear those stories if that's happened to you. 0344 499 1000. But I will take your comments on what happened here with Miss Angeli and her mother Tina, and also the granddaughter as well, who's Leandra, who's part of the picture on this too. She was the one filming. We'll speak to both of them a little later in the programme. But let's have some return on this one from you. 0344 499 1000. It's the handcuffs. And your offence, I wanted to hug my mum. I'm very sorry, you can't be doing that. Will you please step into the police car with these handcuffs on? Come on. Was there really a threat? Was there really a chance of escape, a chance of violence against this setting? This is outrageous. This is absolutely off the scale outrageous. And it's not the only... I get it. If some moron has organised a rave, and there's been a lot of that going on, hasn't there? Oh, it's a good idea. Let's organise a rave. Got some friends. They'll come over. You stick it on Facebook, Dean, and start on Facebook it goes. Oh, look, 2,000 people have showed up to my rave. £10,000 fine. That's because you're a half-wit. Hence, this is somebody wanting to hug their mum. Context, everybody.